Welcome back to Classic Radio Drama Theater. In this episode, we present 4 distinct gems from the golden age of radio. We'll experience a high-stakes rescue mission across war-torn Europe, witness the comedic chaos when Hollywood royalty visits a neighborhood bar, uncover astonishing true stories of resilience, and explore the dramatic struggles behind world-changing inventions. 4 unique radio journeys, all in this episode. First up, prepare for suspense with Night Train from Academy Award. A daring British agent ventures deep into enemy territory. Can he successfully extract a vital scientist before the net closes? Or is this mission destined for disaster?
The House of Squibb presents Academy Award. Tonight, Rex Harrison in Night Train. Every week, Squibb brings you Hollywood's finest. The great picture plays, the great actors and actresses, techniques and skills chosen from the honor roll of those who have won or been nominated for the famous Golden Oscar of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. For generations, the House of Squibb has been known for the high quality and unfailing dependability of its products, each the result of a never-ending quest for perfection. Today, the great family of Squibb products reflects the tremendous advance of science in its contribution to human health and well-being. The name Squibb stands for progress through research. Squibb is a name you can trust. Tonight, Squibb brings to Academy Award the well-known screen actor Rex Harrison. You will hear Mr. Harrison in the role he created for the screen in the thrilling mystery Night Train, the picture which, for the best original screen story of the year, was nominated for the 1941 Academy Award.
My real name is Randall, but I was known once as Major Herzog. I have a number somewhere around the place and some newspaper clippings and a medal. Yes, I have about everything one needs, including nightmares, to remind me that not so long ago I was one of those calm, nerveless chaps the books describe as a British agent. Right now, I'm addicted to gardening, and I propose to cultivate the gentle passion for the rest of my days. Unless, of course, they need me, which God forbid. My little excursion into darkest intrigue began about the time Mr. Chamberlain's umbrella failed to open at Munich, and we entered that Gilbert and Sullivan era known then as the phony war. Now, believe me, there was nothing phony about mine.
Oh, hello, Randall. How are you?
Fine.
Sorry to bring you down to London tonight. We must apologize, too, for all the secrecy, but we've got a crisis again.
I know.
We were just discussing the Beaumarsh affair.
Yes,
You slipped up badly there, didn't you?
Yes.
Yes, we needed Beaumarsh frightfully, you know. And after all our trouble in getting him away from the Nazis and out of Germany, you let them come along and steal him away from under your nose.
Yes, well, you see, they were very convincing, posed as officers in the Royal Navy, and said they were to take him to dinner aboard Admiral somebody's ship.
They dined him all right, but aboard one of their U-boats.
I underestimated their nerve.
Well, the War Office has been stinking about it. They take the view that this armor plating of Beaumarsh's will make all the difference in the coming war.
And by tomorrow night, Beaumarsh will be in Berlin, where they won't lose any time in putting the screws on the poor devil.
Tomorrow night? That means he won't be at the Admiralty until, let's see, Saturday morning.
Well, that's about it. Why?
Nearly 48 hours.
What are you driving at?
Well, they got him out of England. Why shouldn't we get him back?
Oh, that's quite impossible.
Why? I know my way about. Speak German like a stormtrooper. I spent 5 years in Berlin.
We might be in a shooting war before you get back. You know what that would mean.
Yes, sir.
Well, you know perfectly well I can't give you permission to do it, and the fact that you make such a proposal shows you're obviously not yourself. You agree?
Well,
I quite agree with you. Well, Randall, I suggest you take a week's sick leave. Take a complete change of air.
And I must say this is mighty sporting of you, Randall. Patriotic and all that. The highest tradition of the service.
Right.
Oh, it's nothing so noble as all that. After all, gentlemen, I did blot my copybook a bit, and then, of course, there's Beaumash's daughter.
Really? I say. A touch of romance, eh?
Well, sort of. Gentlemen, I'll need some letters of introduction and that sort of thing. And oh, yes, is there someone about who could draw up my will? Well, it wasn't really so bad getting into their benighted country. I had some wonderful credentials, a beautiful uniform and the manners of a pig. My German was excellent, and my Heil Hitlers were things of beauty. I called upon Commander Kampenfeld at the Admiralty in Berlin.
This is to introduce to you Major Ulrich Herzog of Corps Engineers. Major Herzog is in Berlin on an important technical mission for which he requires Admiralty assistance.
I want to refer to certain technical evidence given before the Naval Heavy Armaments 1935 Committee. If you will let me have a copy of the report, Commander.
Certainly, Major. It will take only a moment. I have my own filing system here. Have you been in Berlin long, Major Herzog?
9. I only left the Siegfried Line last Tuesday.
Things must be pretty hectic there.
Yeah, indeed. I was there in a consultative capacity, steel fortifications. You possibly have heard.
Oh, yes, of course. How is our steel?
Crop plating is poor. That is why I am in Berlin. Do you realize that the steel used by the Czechs is better than anything we have got?
Mm-hmm. But surely now that we control the Skoda works...
Not enough. We let the only man who counted there slip through our fingers.
Beaumarsh.
Yeah, wonderful fellow on armor plating. Produced incredible results. And where is he? Working for Britain.
No. Beaumarsh is no longer in England.
What?
He was brought back to Germany only a few hours ago. In fact, Major, he's in this building right now.
Well, this completely alters my plans. Perhaps you can arrange for me to see Herr Beaumarsh at once.
I'm afraid it is impossible.
But surely there is no harm in my asking him a few questions.
It is beyond my province, Major. If you could get permission from Admiral von Hassinger... But, 9, his office is like a kingdom of heaven. And if anything, a little bit more exclusive.
But you do not mind trying, Commander. After all, I've always felt I'd more or less earned the right to get one foot at least in heaven.
Anna, it is useless for your father to resist us like this. You must persuade him. You will both be given reasonable freedom.
Freedom? Here?
In time, you will see things the way I do, the way everyone in Germany does.
I'm not a German.
Germany is as much your country as it is ours. We don't hate the Czechs. We only wish to protect them.
And you are protecting the people of Poland?
That's enough. You have gone too far, Fräulein Beaumarsh. You will be placed in a concentration camp until your father comes to his senses.
Must you drag my daughter into this?
Achtung! The Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral von Hassinger.
Well, Karl Marsen, is this the way the Gestapo conducts a meeting? Here Beaumarsh wringing his hands, his daughter in tears. Come, man, there must be more persuasive methods of getting valuable cooperation.
Excellency.
Oh, never mind. This is Major Herzog, Corps of Engineers. Perhaps you've heard of him, the man behind the Siegfried Line. Eh, Herzog?
Only one of the men, sir. The Führer is responsible for the line as he is responsible for everything else.
Yes, Heil Hitler.
Heil Hitler.
I'd like to have your report, Marsen, now.
Certainly, Admiral.
You will remember me, Herr Beaumarchais? I did not expect you to see you again so soon. And you, Fräulein Beaumarchais? I see you have not forgotten. It must be 4 years.
Oh, yes, it must be.
Just a moment, Major. I'm sorry, but I must ask Herr Beaumarchais and Fräulein Beaumarchais step into the other room. Guard, take them away.
This way.
Maybe we will meet again, gnädiges Fräulein.
I thought it unwise, sir, to speak in front of Beaumarchais. So far, we've made no impression on him.
I do not agree. He looks 10 years older. Beaumarchais is not the one to be bullied into cooperation.
No? What would you suggest?
I knew Fräulein Beaumarchais in Prague. She has a great influence on her father and is the one person who can make him change his mind.
Old Marson here has tried that. He's our Gestapo man who got the Beaumarchais out of England under the very noses of British military intelligence.
My congratulations, sir.
Thank you, sir.
But if I may say so, I do not think Herr Marson is a suitable person to influence the lady.
Then who do you think would be more suitable?
Myself, for instance?
You?
Why not? You saw the way she looked at me when I came in. I think if you were to spend a few hours with her, I might induce her to reason with her father.
You knew her that well in Prague?
It was spring, sir.
Well, I think you're something of a dog, Major.
I doubt, sir, whether the Major's qualities will make an impression on her, sir.
I did not know that you were acquainted with my qualities, sir.
Well, we let him try it. No harm done. If he doesn't succeed, leave all the arrangements to me. This requires knowledge of maneuvers, eh, Major?
Oh, quite, Admiral. Definitely.
Good luck. Heil Hitler.
Heil Hitler! Well, so far, so good. Miraculously good. I went to the hotel where the Beaumarchais were kept prisoners. I convinced them, especially Anna, that she'd have to play up to me, to behave as if we were renewing an old love affair that began in Prague in the spring. Anna tells me now, or when I get around to asking her, that she was only acting then. But of course, that's the way of wives, isn't it? Anyway, I wasn't acting my part at all. I meant it. One more thing. I shall have to spend the night here.
That is necessary.
Yes, the place is absolutely crawling with Gestapo. Have you any sporting instinct?
Why?
I'll toss you who takes the couch in the upper room.
You behave as if this were all a joke. Don't you realize how much depends on our getting out of Germany?
No good being intense about it. I don't like the facing a firing squad any better than you do.
What do you mean?
England may be at war with Germany tomorrow.
Oh.
Now, just keep trying. Try to pretend you find me unbearably attractive.
If a woman ever loved you like you love yourself, it would be history. Now what?
I'll take it. Hello? German Admiralty. Hello? Yeah? Herzog here. Yeah, sir?
Sorry to disturb you at this hour, Major Herzog. We have had to alter our plans. Orders have come from Munich that Beaumarchais is to go there by first plane.
But this is ridiculous. Cannot that be delayed for a few hours?
Impossible. The plane leaves in an hour. Führer's orders. Heil Hitler.
What is happening?
They're sending your father to Munich at once. There's only one chance. Leave this hotel. Scuttle. It's an old German custom.
But the guards downstairs.
We got into the Admiralty, and we'll get out of here. Get your clothes together. I'll tell your father. We leave in 5 minutes.
I have been instructed, sir, to leave immediately with Herr Beaumarchais.
I shall not require you.
Very well, sir. Shall I get you a taxi, sir?
I will call one myself.
Wait.
Steady. We've got to act as if we were under Hitler's orders.
Look, we're trapped. Gestapo chief, Herr Marson.
Well?
Well?
I didn't expect you to be here in the lobby waiting, Major. I'm ordered to escort Herr Beaumarchais and his daughter to Munich.
Really? The controller phoned me a few minutes ago, and I was about to drive them to the Admiralty myself.
Orders were changed, sir. We are to take the train.
Of course, the train.
It leaves in 50 minutes.
Very well. We are ready.
You, sir?
Certainly. Were you not told? I have the Admiral's authority to travel with them. You see, he feels it essential that Herr Beaumarchais should be persuaded to comply with our wishes before he reaches headquarters. I was progressing extremely well with Fräulein Beaumarchais when this happened.
I see. Very good, sir.
Yes, excellent. This way, Herr Beaumarchais, your arm. My car, Fräulein. The Führer is waiting.
A note of mystery is fine in a drama, but when it comes to choosing a dentifrice, well, then you want to know what to expect. That's why so many people choose Squibb dental cream. They know you can taste, feel, and see the refreshing difference. And there's no mystery why. 223 scientific tests behind every tube ensure those distinctive qualities that make Squibb dental cream such a pleasure to use. Testing guarantees its mint-frosted tingle, refreshing as the crisp, sparkling sunlight of an autumn day, invigorating as the tang of wood smoke in the air. Testing guarantees the brisk action of Squibb dental cream that leaves your whole mouth feeling so wonderfully clean. And testing guarantees that the polishing agent in Squibb dental cream, one of the safest, most effective known to dental science, will help to bring out all the natural sparkle of your smile. So, for your own protection, for greater refreshment, use Squibb dental cream, one of the great family of Squibb products. Taste, feel, and see the refreshing difference. And now the House of Squibb presents Part 2 of Academy Award, starring Rex Harrison in Night Train.
Everybody out of this train.
What is the matter, Herr Maaßen? This is not a scheduled stop for the express.
I do not know, sir. Very unusual. But then these are unusual times. If you will escort Fräulein and Herr Bomasch, I'll find out the trouble.
Of course. Come, my dear, we've got to get off here.
But, darling, I thought the Führer was in such a hurry for us to arrive in Munich.
Shh, one doesn't question the vagaries of the Führer.
I beg your pardon, Major. What was that you said?
I said one does not question the orders of the Führer.
Of course not. Heil Hitler.
Hail Hitler. Watch your step, Fräulein. This way, Herr Bomasch.
I say, did you notice that German officer who just came out of the train?
Yes, Caldecott. Why?
Well, my dear Chalmers, I could have sworn it was old Dickie Randall. We were at Bailey together. He played for the gentleman once.
Really? But if he's a German officer, how could he be Dickie Randall? Huh? Oh, here they come. Why don't you ask him, old boy?
Yes, I shall, old boy. I say, excuse me, old boy, but aren't you old Dickie Randall?
Mayor Herzog, Corps of Engineers.
Oh, right, sorry. Dash it, I must say he looked like old Dickie. It's extraordinary.
That man, you know him?
Yes, Helical called it. It was close.
What will happen when we get to Munich?
Car will be waiting. Probably a big crowd. I shall ask for a second car so we can be alone.
Suppose they don't give it to us.
They will, because by that time we shall be on the verge of persuading your father to work for Germany. But you, on the other hand, must be asking for time to think. Do you get the idea?
Yes, but how can we...
All we have only the chauffeur to deal with, and after that, Switzerland.
Switzerland? A long way from Munich.
The only way out of this fortress. We shall have to make it.
I say, do you know why we stopped, old man?
No, I don't. Why?
Oh, I just had it from a train man. Old England's declared war.
Not really.
I say, I want to put a call through to Berlin.
Oh? Why?
I left my golf sticks there. Can't leave them behind just because of war on, you know. Oh, here's a booth. Oh, excuse me. That German chap in there, that's the one with old Dickie. If it was old Dickie.
I say, try this extension.
Yes, sir. This is Martin reporting, sir.
I say, listen.
Good. Major Herzog is not known to the War Office. No officer of that name on the list. We believe him to be an enemy agent.
Yes, sir.
You will carry on with him to Munich. Let him think he's getting away with it. We will be waiting for you there.
Very good. Heil Hitler.
Interesting, what?
Very. Herzog isn't Herzog. And they're going to do him in when we get to Munich.
Then if old Herzog isn't old Herzog, the chap might be...
Right.
Yes.
He might jolly well be old Dickie Randall. Joe.
All aboard!
Crowded in here. I wonder if I could wash my hand.
I say, if you're Dickie Randall, old chap, you're batting on a sticky wicket.
All right, Colligan, I got your note. What is it?
Oh, this is Charters, an old friend of mine.
How do you do?
How do you do? Frightfully crowded here, what?
What's it about?
Well, I was phoning Berlin for my golf clubs when old Charters overheard that chap you were with. Looks like a Gestapo chap.
He is a Gestapo chap.
You know they're sending a military escort to arrest you in Munich.
Yes. You see, you're Randall. Randall, aren't you? Yes, of course you are. And they know that you're not Herzog.
Now, listen, I can't tell you everything. There isn't time. But I've got to get that old man and the girl out of the country at all costs.
What, an official job?
Are you two fellas game to help me?
What, against Germany?
Absolutely, old man. Backs to the wall.
Rather.
You needing us for a line? Is there tea left?
Yes, I think so, Ulrich.
There's no time for tea. We are coming into the Munich station. Enough of this comedy. There is no such person as Major Herzog. He is a British agent trying to get you and your father out of Germany.
Ulrich!
Forget the Ulrich, darling. The Gestapo knows everything.
Thank
you. You're going to give yourself up?
Looks like it, Herr Beaumarchais.
Don't you realize what this means?
Yes, I do, but he's got a gun and I haven't. What you take me for, Bulldog Drummond?
Oh, I told you this would happen. Your scheme was absolutely childish. Why didn't you stay in England instead of coming over here and deliberately throwing your life away? You fool.
Thank you, my sweet. Look out.
No!
Shut up, Gestapo. Now give me that gun and get to sleep.
Oh, that was so fast.
Oh, yes, I can move once in a while.
You called for the guard, Major Herzog?
Beastly fit, these Nazi uniforms, eh?
Okay, call it, Charters. You can carry the Gestapo into another compartment and lock the door.
Very good, sir. I say, it looks like we've struck a blow for old England already, eh? Come on, lift him up, Collicott. There's a good fellow.
Where are the Nazi guards?
Oh, well, we found it very necessary to drop them off in the tunnel. Probably never be found.
The military escort is coming.
What do we do now?
We drop it through. I'll order Collicott to drive, then we'll make a dash for Switzerland.
Heil Hitler.
Heil Hitler.
Orders from the 5th Army headquarters for the arrest of Major Herzog.
I fear you will need a stretcher. The prisoner tried to escape and I had to deal with him. You will find him in the last compartment, coach 66. What transport have you?
2 cars, sir.
Excellent. I should take one. I am under orders to escort Herr and Fräulein Beaumarchais to General von Klontisch without delay.
Very good, sir. Coach 66, you said, sir.
Right. That'll be all. Heil Hitler.
Heil Hitler.
I say, old Dickie, we're being followed.
Of course.
I may be a bit silly, but how do we get across the Swiss frontier?
Narrow road leads up to the top of the mountain.
What's over the top?
Switzerland.
Anything in between?
6,000 feet drop.
They're gaining on us.
Shooting, I say, they can't do that.
I hope you're right. Now, hold on. We'll turn here for the summit. Never mind the car. We've gained about 5 minutes on them. Here's the cable car.
You mean we have to cross in that basket?
That or nothing, darling.
Yes, sir?
We want to cross to Switzerland.
Sorry, sir. We are at war. I had orders yesterday to close the cable car.
You have new orders from Gestapo headquarters in Munich.
Yes, sir. But I must phone for verification.
That'll have to be your verification. Now, in you go, darling. You too, Herr Beaumarchais, quickly.
I say, do we know how to operate this thing now? Perhaps we shouldn't have shot that chap.
Well, we'll run it somehow. You chaps better pile in. I'll start the mechanism and try to keep those nuts off until you get across.
No, nothing stirring, old bean. All or nothing. We'll stay. Eh, Charters?
Of course. Nothing else a chap can do. Back to the wall.
Now, come on, get started. You chaps go in with the others. Carry on for me if anything happens. Remember, the bow mashers must get to England.
No, I won't leave without you.
Now get in and shut up. I'm starting the motors.
We can't leave you. Couldn't run out on old Dickie.
Get going. That's an order.
Darling. I'll be waiting.
Goodbye, darling.
Look out, Randall. Here they come.
Get the man in the control room.
Yeah.
You others shoot down the cable car basket. Kill them all.
I won't leave here till I know what has happened to him.
But, my dear, we can't stay overnight atop this mountain, even if we are in Switzerland.
Poor old Dickie. They must have got him.
Well, the shooting has stopped. I think we'd better carry on. Orders he gave, you know. Take the Beaumarchers to England.
Yes, right you are. It seemed a shame, though, to leave old Dickie's body on Crouch soil. After all, you know, he played for the gentleman.
We don't know what happened. The fog closed down. We can't see across.
Oh, it's no fog, old girl. It's a cloud. A big old cumulus nosing around.
Listen.
I say, it's the old cable car. Maybe those chaps mean to come across after us. I wish I had a gun.
Now, take it easy, Mr. Beaumarch. We'll give them a bit of a reception. Hey, Caldecott? I used to shoot with the guards, you know.
Get back, girl, get back. We'll need all the room. Take a position, Charters.
Right, I'm ready.
And shoot when you see the red tips of their snouts.
Steady on. Here it comes. Blast that cloud in our way.
It's coming out of the cloud. Steady.
Give them a hail, old boy.
Halt there, I say, or we shall commence hostilities.
I can't see anyone for the cloud. Look out for a trick.
Darling. Are you there?
Hello, darling. Caldecott, give me a hand.
Dickie! But, Harry, how did you get away from them?
Pull me out of this thing and then cut the cables. You ready?
Tone off for Crestas now. Grab his hand. Now, Charters. I'll blast the cable when he's safe aground.
Hurry it up. It can't take forever.
Well, here you are, Dickie. Grab my hand.
Here we go.
Look out, look out. Here goes the cable.
Well, I guess that takes care of everything. Except...
Oh, darling.
Yes, except the bride. You may tell the papers that the bride wore Edelweiss, and the wedding march was yodeled by the quaint peasants in Alpine Tower. We shall shove off. Old England's quite a walk from here.
There's a new adventure and refreshment awaiting you in every tube of Squibb Dental Cream. Until you try Squibb Dental Cream yourself, you'll never know how pleasant or exhilarating a dentifrice can be. Its name tells you that Squibb Dental Cream is a safe, pure, effective aid to better cleansing. But let your senses tell you how exhilarating Squibb Dental Cream is. Brush it into lively mint-frosted foam and note how Squibb Dental Cream not only helps to brighten your smile, but leaves your whole mouth feeling young and alive, contributing to your sense of well-being. Too much to expect of a dentifrice? Not when it's Squibb Dental Cream, one of the great family of Squibb products. So give your charm the protection it deserves, the protection of pure, fragrant Squibb Dental Cream. Taste, feel, and see the refreshing difference. Next Wednesday, another great picture. The House of Squibb will present Academy Award starring Greer Garson in Brief Encounter. Today's performance of Night Train was written for radio by Frank Wilson with an original musical score composed and conducted by Leith Stevens. Our producer-director is Dee Engelbach. Rex Harrison appeared through the courtesy of 20th Century Fox and may soon be seen in their production of The Ghost and Mrs. Muir. This is Hugh Brundage bidding you good night until next Wednesday at the same time when you're invited to listen again to Academy Award, presented by the House of Squibb, a name you can trust. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
From the tension of wartime espionage, we now shift to the bustling, unpredictable world of Duffy's Tavern. Join the fun as the sophisticated film star Rex Harrison pays a visit as the guest of this episode. What sparks will fly when British charm encounters the tavern's unique brand of New York grit?
Hello, Duffy's Tavern, where the elite meet to eat. Archie the manager speaking. Duffy ain't here. Oh, hello, Duffy. Tonight, Rex Harrison, the famous British cinema star. Yes, one of the Chutney and Putney set. Huh? How come there's so many English actors in America? Well, Duffy, we send a lot of our actors to England. It's sort of a hams across the sea policy. What's Rex Harrison like? Well, he's tall and lean and svelte, the perfect build for a monocle. Yeah, typical Englishman, Duffy. He dresses with that casual carelessness, the aristocratic look of studied sloppiness. Well, Duffy, you must know him. He was in Anna and the King of Siam. Yeah, that's right, where he's got the 20 wives. Yeah. Imagine a guy coming home and trying to explain to 19 of them where he was the night before. Hey, that reminds me, Duffy, I've been holding this out on you, but I'm planning to commit matrimony myself. Well, it's pretty definite. I've said yes, and the dame ain't said no. Yeah, well, I'll keep you informed if there's any further communiques. Okay.
Miss Archie, what's this marriage talk? Yeah. I thought you was finished with romance.
I was, Eddie, but I guess women is me weakness. They're a habit, like cigarettes.
Hmm? You mean it'll take a whole pack of them to get you to spend 15 cents?
Don't scoff at me, Eddie. This time it's the real thing.
I see. And when is the marriage going to take place?
Well, she ain't set a definite date yet.
Uh-huh. Has she told you she'll marry you?
Well, not exactly.
Has she told you she loves you?
Well, no, Eddie. You see, there's one slight hitch.
What?
I ain't met the dame yet.
Well, maybe after you've been married a couple of years, you get somebody to introduce you.
Yeah.
Tell me, what's she like?
Oh, she's wonderful, Eddie. Just my type.
Well, that narrows it down to blondes, brunettes, redheads, and baldies.
Eddie, what I mean is that usually if a dame has got beauty, she ain't got brains, and if she ain't got brains, she's usually ugly. This dame has got both.
This one is both dumb and ugly. Tell me, how'd you meet, how didn't you meet this lady?
Through the press.
The press?
Yeah. A picture was in the Times. In that Rodham Crib, your section, that I got it right here. Take a gander at that face, Eddie, and that figure. Okay.
Let's see. Bonnie Bray, fattest sow at Danbury County.
Eddie! That's the wrong side of the paper.
Oh, I'm sorry. Beauty and brains. Miss Barbara Maxwell, brilliant bachelor student. Graduates magna cum laude. Miss Maxwell was also voted the most beautiful girl in her class. And she sure is pretty.
Yeah. And get a load of them brains. And she's coming down here tonight, Eddie.
How you know?
How do I know? We corresponded.
Who wrote the letters for you?
I wrote the letters myself. Told her all about my education, too.
You mean how you made a quick exit from Exeter and darted through Dartmouth?
No, Eddie, I didn't want to lay it on too thick. I just told her how I cum lauded at Harvard.
Didn't you take a chance writing the letter?
Not at all. I was careful to put a lot of grammar in it. Got a copy of the letter right here. Take a look.
Yeah, let's see. Dear Miss Maxwell, the minute I seen your picture, I felt love hanging in me heart.
You see? The thing is full of participles. Yep, Eddie, all me life I've wanted to marry a dame with brains, you know?
Say, Archie, you think if I asked Rex Harrison in a nice way, he'd take me out tonight?
Miss Duffy, I think he'd just jump at the chance. After all, who else could he go out with that would be as glamorous and chic and beautiful?
Archie, you're turning my head.
And it looks better that way. Now, if you want to see a picture of a really beautiful girl, Miss Duffy, look at this one here. Get a load of that figure.
Figure? In that graduation cap and that long black gown, how can you tell?
I held the picture up to the light. Look at that face, huh? She looks like she was chiseled out of Greeks.
Oh, what?
Oh, hello, Finnegan. Finnegan, guess what?
Let me see. Somebody caught a seal off Madagascar weighing 443 pounds, right?
What kind of nonsense talk is this?
Well, Art, you said guess what, so I just took a chance.
Oh, no. What I meant by guess what, Finnegan, was that I'm thinking of getting married.
To a 443-pound seal?
No.
Well, I'm still in that guessing, Art.
Well, it happens that I'm getting married to a 110-pound intellectual.
Oh, I wasn't too far off. What's she like, Art?
You'll see. She'll be down here any minute in the flesh.
In the flesh?
Yes.
Oh, the informal type.
Finnegan, I was just speaking figurative.
Well, so was I. Well, Art, congratulations. I think it's a nice thing for a guy like you to have babies and get married.
Finnegan, one gets married first, then one has the babies.
Well, whatever the accepted procedure is. Oh, good luck to you anyway, Dodge.
Oh, thanks.
Hey, Miss Dodge, ain't you making a mistake having your girl down here at the same time as Rex Harrison?
I ain't worried, Eddie. What's he got that I ain't got?
Oh, looks.
Go on.
Talent.
Go on.
Intelligence.
Go on.
Fame.
Yeah. But what has he got that would appeal to a dame?
Money.
That's right. I never thought of that.
Well, look, maybe if you can dig up a few of them other things, she won't mind you having no money.
That's an idea. Hey, Eddie.
Yeah?
I'm expecting my future bride here any minute, and as I told you, she's one of them Phi Beta Kappas, you know. I was wondering, what can I do to make the tavern here seem more intellectual?
Leave.
I wish you'd cut out the risibilities. No, what I mean is, she's a cultured dame. Maybe we ought to scatter a few books around the joint.
We ain't got no books.
No, huh? Well, then just turn a few of them menus upside down and we'll tell her they're library cards. Let's see, what else? Eddie?
Yeah?
Eddie, do you think that moose head is shaggy enough to pass for a bust of Einstein? Hey, wait a minute. Look who just come in.
Rex Harrison, man.
Yeah. Quick, get out some off and off.
What?
Arf and arf.
Well, you don't have to bark at me.
Who's barking at you? It's an English delicacy.
Arf and arf?
Yeah, means fish and chips. We want to treat the guy like he's civilized, don't we? Good evening, Mr. Harrison.
Hello, Archie.
Well, Rex, I'm glad you was able to pop in, old Pip. This is your first visit to the tavern, ain't it?
What do you mean? People come down here twice?
Not if they make cracks like that. But since you're a visitor from our colonies, I'll forget it. Incidentally, I just ordered some tiffin for you.
Tiffin?
Yeah, fish and chips. Or, as used English call it, off and off.
Tiffin, coming up.
Thank you, Eddie. Hey, Rex, how does it look to you?
Let's see. 2 sardines on a cracked plate.
Yeah, fish and chips.
Go ahead, Rex. Crack your china on them. Would you like to drown them in a cup of tea?
You happen to have some brewed?
Oh, mercy, yes. The tea has been brooding all day. In fact, I think I'll have a cup with you.
Good.
Hey, that's a funny thing, you know. Here you and me is having tea together, and it was just a while back that our ancestors fought a war over the stuff. But I always say bygones will be bygones. Well, down the hatch.
Archie, this tea.
What about it?
What you trying to do, start another war?
Yeah, he's even using the same tea.
Eddie, it's loose talk like that sinks ships. How did you happen to come down here to Duffy's Tavern, Rex?
Well, after all, it's a world-famous place.
Well, thank you.
Yes, well, even in London, people warn me against eating here.
Mr. Harrison, a lot of pride has gone into making Duffy's Tavern what it is.
But with the lack of customers, how do you manage to stay in business?
We're too proud to declare bankruptcy. But enough talk about the tavern. Let's talk about you, Rex. Tell me, do you, Miss Duffy, what does...
It's very disappointing. He's even better looking than I thought.
Then why are you disappointed?
He's married.
Rex, this is Miss Duffy. You'll have to excuse her. She slept with so many wedding cakes under her pillow that she has to comb her hair with a fork.
Mr. Harrison, I love the way you Englishmen dress.
Thank you.
Is your wife very jealous?
Why?
Would you mind if I rubbed my cheek against your tweed coat?
No. Not at all.
Really?
No. Here's the key to my closet. Anytime I'm not at home, drop in and rub away.
Great idea, Rex. While she's in there, she can scare away the moths. Incidentally, speaking of that clothes closet of yours, Scram. Speaking of that clothes closet, you don't happen to have anything that would be suitable for me to wear to a wedding, would you?
Well, I've a cutaway coat. And
cutaway? Look, when I go to the trouble of buying a coat, I like to get all that's coming to me. Besides, me dame might not like me walking up the aisle with me shirt tail hanging up.
Oh, Archie, you're talking about your own wedding.
Yep, I am, Rex. You see, I figured there's a time in the life of all of us when we should trip the light fantastic.
Let me offer you my congratulations.
That's my big problem. What am I going to talk to about to a dame like that?
Oh, any number of things.
Well, like what?
Oh, paleontology?
Well, yes.
Thermodynamics?
Yeah, that too.
The internal structure of the octahedric crystals?
That, I'm afraid, might be over her head. By the way, where did you pick up them things?
Listening to information, please.
Did you pick up any other good ones?
Well, let's see. John Kieran said the population of the Earth was 2 billion.
Yes, but can we be sure that Kieran is correct?
Archie, John Kieran is an authority on population.
8 to 5, you don't even know that Mrs. Burt Murphy had a baby last week. And I blew it. No, Rex, with this dame of mine, I can't take no chances on mistakes. Now, what else do you know that you're real sure of?
Well, let me see.
About 100,000 years ago, during the Paleolithic era, icy glaciers covered the entire Earth.
Hey, that's a pip. I'll murder her with that one. Think I'll make a note of it. By the way, how do you spell that word?
Well, Paleolithic?
No, icy. That other one I choose to ignore.
Say, Arch, do you think it's... Hey, who's the character?
Archie, you ought to keep your bottles more tightly corked.
Hey, Arch, he talks funny.
What's funny about it? It's a dialect. He's from England.
England, to arms, to arms! The redcoats are coming! One to fight land, two to fight sea! To the hills, men! The dam is breaking!
Finnegan, take it easy. Take it easy, will you? That war has been over for 200 years.
Arch, I ain't the kind of a guy that gives up easy.
Stop acting so ignorant, will you? We happen to be gracing the presence of a very educated guy.
Oh, really? One of our own kind, huh?
Yeah.
But how do we know that he's educated, Arch?
We'll test him.
Oh, okay. Mr. Harrison, how do you spell cat?
C-A-T.
Arch, how did he make out?
Well, maybe it was a wild guess, Finnegan, but it happens that he spelled it right.
Guy sounds like a deep thinker.
Will you stop wasting Mr. Harrison's time here?
Now, Archie, I find Mr. Finnegan very stimulating.
Stimulating?
Oh, thank you, kind sir. The feeling is mutual.
In fact, I'd like to spend a little more time with him. Mr. Finnegan, will you join me in a Coca-Cola?
Oh, delighted, but do you think there's room in the bottle for both of us?
I was just thinking.
That's dangerous.
Cut it out. No, but me future bride's gonna be here any minute. What kind of flowers do you think I ought to buy her?
How about a nosegay?
This is no time for pig Latin. I want to get her some flowers so she'll realize I got culture as well as intelligence.
Well, them flowers might be all right for the culture, but what you gonna do about intelligence? Show her that gold star you got for basket weaving?
Only as a last resort. Incidentally, look at that Harrison over there.
What?
Over there in the corner, still talking to Finnegan. Can't figure it out. Why would a guy like Harrison talk to Finnegan?
Well, he's here for a rest. Maybe he's just tired of talking to people.
Yeah, sure is weird, ain't it? Hey, wait a minute. Hey, this must be the dame now.
Who?
Barbara Maxwell. Look at her. Don't beat the script, boys. Oh, boy, what a magnum cum laude tomato.
Pardon me, I'm looking for a gentleman named Archimedes.
Oh, no.
Do you mean Archimedes, Ph.D., L.L.D., and M.A., the gentleman what wrote you that letter?
Yes.
I am that him. Tell me, Miss Maxwell, hic haec hoc sic Caesar Romero in hoc.
What's that?
Don't tell me you don't talk Latin.
Is that Latin?
Of course.
No wonder it's a dead language.
Perhaps you would prefer to converse in Sanskrit?
Archie, why don't we just talk English?
If you insist, but for us intellectuals, it seems like such a live language.
Don't worry, we'll kill it. Archie, your letter said you were a Harvard man. When did you graduate?
1908?
1908? But you couldn't have been over 5 years old.
See what a genius I was? In fact, I was so little that instead of diapers, me old prof used to wrap me up in Harvard pennants. By the way, speaking of paleontology...
What?
Paleontology. Don't tell me you never heard of paleontology.
No, what is it?
Kid, you better go back to Facet. Have you ever heard of them thermodynamics and them oxycedric crystals?
No.
You didn't? I'm afraid my family wouldn't approve of you. But maybe I can wise you up before you meet them. You see, about 100,000 years ago, before the days of Figaro, the whole Earth used to be covered up with icy glaciers made out of them Paleolithics. You remember that now when you meet me, old man.
You mean your whole family are intellectuals?
Even more than me.
Well, in that case, I'd like to meet them.
Well, right at the moment, Dad is very busy. You know how things are at Oak Ridge.
Your father works at Oak Ridge?
Oh, my, yes.
What does he do there?
Come here. He's assembling the atom.
Oh. Well, then maybe I can meet your mother.
She's at Oak Ridge, too. She's helping me father. You know how slippery them atoms is. She holds them while he splits them. So, now that you know all about my family, what do you say? Would you like to get married?
Oh, but, Archie, I don't really know about your family. I've only heard about them. I think before we talk about marriage, I ought to at least meet one member.
Yeah. Got to have a relative, huh?
How about Uncle Rex?
Yeah. Miss Maxwell, did you ever see a picture called Anna and the King of Siam?
No.
The Foxes of Harrow?
No.
What a coincidence.
What?
An uncle of mine just arrived from England. I'll have you meet him. Oh, Uncle Rex.
Archie, that distinguished-looking gentleman is your uncle?
Yes, he's Dad's brother on the distaff side. Uncle Rex, I would like you to meet me future intended, Miss Barbara Maxwell.
How do you do, Uncle Rex? Uncle Rex, I understand you just came from England.
England. Tom.
Uncle Rex.
Where if I land and who if I see?
Rex.
To the hills, man. The dam is breaking.
Uncle Rex, what has came into you?
Hey, Arch.
Huh?
Where'd you find the tomato?
Barbara, I must apologize for Uncle Rex. You see...
Don't apologize. I find your Uncle Rex very stimulating. Would you care to go for a walk in the park, Uncle, where we can discuss biology?
You got me, kid. So long, Arch.
Wait a minute. What kind of a dirty trick is this?
I say, Archie, old chap, will you join me in a spot of tippet?
Gangway, here we go. Go where? Go to town on your whiskers with Benex, the new brushless wonder shave. B-E-N-E-X. Benex whisks off your whiskers like...
Oh, hello, Duffy. Guess what? I'm making a personal appearance at the Palace Theater in Cleveland, Ohio next week. Cleveland? Well, you know where the Fulton Fish Market is? Well, it's about 500 miles west of there. Huh? Well, Duffy, I'm going to be a vaudeville actor. Vaudeville is dead? Duffy, I got Jane Russell going with me. Well, it might not bring vaudeville back to life, but it'll bring me back to life. Yes, sir, Duffy, starting Thursday, June 3rd at the Palace Theater in Cleveland. Get your tickets now, folks from Ohio.
It's time now to leave Duffy's Tavern for this evening, but let's meet here again at this same time next Wednesday. Until next Wednesday, then, this is Rod O'Connor reminding you that for the smile of beauty, remember Ipana toothpaste. And for well-groomed hair, remember Vitalis. Rex Harrison appeared through the courtesy of 20th Century Fox, producers of The Iron Curtain, starring Dana Andrews and Gene Tierney. The annual poppy sale is now on. Wearing a poppy helps the disabled veteran who made the poppy, and also other disabled veterans and families of veterans now in need. Wear a poppy so that veterans everywhere will know you remember their sacrifice and their brave deeds. Each Wednesday, Bristol-Myers bring you Duffy's Tavern.
This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
Now, we tune into the legendary Bill Stern's sports newsreel. In this episode, Stern brings us compelling true stories that reach beyond athletics. Hear about a future president's incredible boyhood ordeal and discover a poignant link between battlefield bravery and an immortal American poem.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Bill Stern speaking to you tonight from New Orleans, Louisiana.
Bill Stern, the Colgate man, is on the air. Bill Stern, the Colgate man, with stories rare. Take his advice and you'll look nice. Your face will feel as cool as ice. With Colgate Shave, you'll be a fan.
468th edition of the Colgate Shave Cream Sports Newsreel.
Featuring America's most famous collector of yarns and stories, radio's #1 reporter and authority on sports, Bill Stern.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're broadcasting tonight from New Orleans. We're here in New Orleans getting ready to broadcast tomorrow's Tulane, Mississippi football game. And our guest tonight is the famous motion picture star Rex Harrison. But before you meet Rex Harrison in person, here is Real One. Since we're broadcasting tonight from New Orleans, here's a question. Do you fellas who have trouble with your shaves, what's your problem? A tough beard, tender skin? Whatever it is, you'll find that Colgate Brushless Shaving Cream is the answer. You've never known a shave so smooth, clean, and easy, or one that left your face feeling so comfortable. Prove it to yourself on this great proposition. There's $1 cash, says Colgate Brushless wins you in a flash. With your first shave, you'll notice this.
Because it's light and fine-textured, Colgate Brushless completely surrounds, softens, and supports each bristle better than greasy, heavy creams. No matting down, no clogging. Your razor doesn't skid or skip when you use Colgate Brushless, but cuts through clean and smooth.
Yes, sir. Even the toughest whiskers soften up fast with that light, fine-textured Colgate Brushless Shaving Cream. Your razor sweeps the bristles off close and clean with no scraping or snagging, and you get a shave that looks great and feels swell. Just get a large or giant-sized tube or jar of Colgate Brushless and use it 1 week. If you're not convinced it's the ideal shave, just send me the carton top and you'll get your dollar back quick. Address Bill Stern, care of Colgate, Jersey City, Zone 2, New Jersey. Is it a deal? There's $1 cash, says Colgate Brushless wins you in a flash. Try it tomorrow. Reel 2. Profile of a fisherman. This story begins out in the West. When that part of America was in its period of development, there was a youngster living in the West, the son of a frontiersman. This youngster was then only 13 years old, but he loved sports, and one day he went fishing. While he was fishing, he fell, and he skinned his knee. He thought it was only a scratch, and this youngster thought nothing about that scratch. That is, he thought nothing of it until he got back on the farm, and then he saw that his knee had swollen and that it was starting to ache. But the boy was rugged, so he didn't tell his family about his knee. That is, he didn't tell them until the next day when his ankle had started to swell and when the pain was almost unbearable. The next day, his foot had turned black. It was then that his mother noticed what was happening. Her eyes grew dark with fear as she saw that horribly swollen leg and the foot that had now turned completely black. And breathlessly she said,
Son, why didn't you tell me?
It's nothing, Mother. Only a scratch.
Only a scratch? Oh, son, you're in terrible pain. I'm going to call Dr. Conklin.
When the doctor arrived, he knelt down beside the bed. Then he looked at the boy's mother, and he said,
I don't think we can save it.
Doc, what do you mean?
I mean, we'll have to amputate your leg, Sonny.
Cut off my leg? I won't let you. I'll die first.
That 13-year-old youngster did refuse to let the doctor cut off his leg. That's why he said to his brother,
They want to cut off my leg. Ed, if I become unconscious, don't let them cut off my egg. Please, Ed, don't let the doctor come in.
I won't. Don't you worry. I promise I won't let the doctor in.
And so his brother Ed stood by the youngster's door. And the brother looked the old doctor in the eye as he said,
Nobody's going to saw off my kid brother's leg.
But, Ed, it may mean his death.
Maybe so, Doc, but I gave him my word, and I intend to keep it.
As the night wore on, the boy's fever mounted, while the doctor stood outside the door, helpless. He heard the youngster crying out in pain. And then the boy's mother turned to Ed, and she said,
Ed, if you won't let the doctor into the room, at least let me go in.
Ed let his mother into the room. Tired old woman knelt on the hard floor, and she began to pray.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
Well, that prayer did what no medicine could do. For the next day, when the boy opened his eyes, the swelling had gone down, and in 3 days, the boy could stand up. But wait a minute. That's the story, all right. The story of a 13-year-old youngster who defied a doctor and refused to let them amputate his leg. But you might like to know who this boy was. This boy who refused to let them take his leg off. His name was Dwight Eisenhower. Portrait of a game guy. Reel 3. Colgate's guest of the evening. Tonight we're broadcasting from New Orleans, but our guest tonight's in New York City. Our guest is the world-famous motion picture star Rex Harrison. Now, in order that you can hear Rex Harrison in person, this is Bill Stern in New Orleans switching you to NBC New York, where the next voice you hear will be that of the famous movie star, Mr. Rex Harrison.
Good evening, Bill. This is Rex Harrison in New York. You know, I was in America last summer when you were broadcasting the Olympic Games from London. You paid a tribute to England I don't think any of us will forget for a long time. You told us all about how the British gave the American team better sleeping quarters than our own teams, and of how we gave the Americans better food than our own men were eating, and how the British people hated to win their only Olympic victory by disqualification of the American team, who really won the race. But tonight, Bill, I'd like to leave sports long enough to pay a tribute to a man who, while he wasn't a great athlete, he was a great sportsman in the finest sense of the word. I'm speaking of a man who gave his life for his country during the war. A man whom I hope will never be forgotten, and who I personally had a great respect and admiration for. His name was Leslie Howard. This is Rex Harrison in New York, returning you to Bill Stern in New Orleans.
Thank you so much. Good luck and good night, Rex Harrison. Reel 4. As you know, tonight we're broadcasting from New Orleans, Louisiana. We're here for the Tulane, Mississippi football game. So tonight from New Orleans, here's the pride of the South, Fred Paul.
Why wait to try Colgate Brushless Shaving Cream? You can't lose on this swell proposition. There's $1 cash says Colgate Brushless wins you in a flash. Yes, sir, $1 says it's the sweet, smooth, comfortable shave you want. And here's why.
Because it's light and fine-textured, Colgate Brushless completely surrounds, softens, and supports each bristle better than greasy, heavy creams. There's no matting down, there's no clogging. Your razor doesn't skid or skip when you use Colgate Brushless. Instead, it cuts through clean and smooth.
Right. Colgate Brushless gets tough whiskers so soft they don't fight the razor. Once over and your beard's off, close and clean, with no scraping of aftershave tenderness. Try it and see.
Tomorrow, buy a large or giant-sized tube or jar of Colgate Brushless Shaving Cream. Use it a week. Then, if you're not 100% sold, just mail the carton top back to me. Bill Stern, care of Colgate, Jersey City, Zone 2, New Jersey. And you'll get your dollar back pronto. You've nothing to lose, everything to gain. There's $1 cash. Says Colgate Brushless wins you in a flash. Reel 5. Profile of the most amazing football team of all time. Tonight, when we're down in New Orleans, broadcasting from the South, let me tell you of an amazing football team. It was the team from the University of the South in Sewanee, Tennessee, during the year of 1899. For one day in that year, a man named Luke Lee, who was the manager of this Sewanee team, called his players together and he said,
Fellas, we've beaten Georgia, Georgia Tech, and Tennessee. But still the nation has never heard of Little Sewanee. We've got to make a name for our school, and I'll tell you how we're going to do it. In the next 6 days, we're going to play the 5 strongest teams in the United States. We're going to play a different team every day next week.
And that's how football history came to be written. The next day, that amazing tour began. And on November the 9th, at Austin, Texas,
Sewanee beats University of Texas, 12-0.
The next day, Friday, November 10th at Houston.
Sewanee wallops Texas A&M, 10-0.
The next day, Saturday, November 11th at New Orleans.
Sewanee smashes Tulane, 23-0.
The next day, Sunday, no game. But the next day, Monday, November 13th at Baton Rouge.
Sewanee whipped Louisiana State, 34-0.
The next day, Tuesday, November 13th at Memphis.
Sewanee beats University of Mississippi, 12-0.
that's the greatest record of all time. The man who was responsible for that incredible football team was Luke Lee. But that's only the beginning of this man's almost unbelievable, incredible history. For Luke Lee, who made gridiron history, was also to make history during the First World War. One night, shortly after the end of the First World War, Luke Lee was sitting in a Paris cafe. He was talking to his buddies. They were talking about the Kaiser. That was the German leader who was hated as much back in those days as Hitler was in World War II. The more that Luke Lee talked about the Kaiser, the more angry he became, until suddenly he said,
Listen, if the Allies are afraid to go after the Kaiser, let's us go get him. He's hiding in Holland.
His buddy, the other man, thought that Luke Lee was kidding. But Luke Lee was deadly serious. And he talked the others into his plan. The plan to kidnap the Kaiser. They forged passports. They hired cars. And in the eerie light of an early morning, they crossed the border into Holland where the Kaiser was in hiding. And the strange part of the story is that Luke Lee and his buddy almost did kidnap the Kaiser. They managed to get into the Kaiser's castle. They even managed to get into the Kaiser's private room when somebody discovered who they were. And then they had to get out and get out fast. Well, they didn't get the Kaiser. You might be interested in knowing who Luke Lee's buddy was that night when he almost kidnapped the Kaiser. That man who was with Luke Lee when they tried to kidnap the Kaiser. That man last year owned the world champion New York Yankees, for his name was Larry McPhail. Wait a minute. Our story about Luke Lee isn't finished yet. Luke Lee isn't remembered as the man whose Swanee football team won 5 games in 6 days, nor is he remembered as the man who tried to kidnap the Kaiser. But he should be remembered for something else that happened to him during the same First World War. On July the 30th of 1918, Luke Lee was with an American Army unit at Chateau-Thierry in France. The American Army was trying to move forward against the entrenched Germans. Suddenly, a young boy ran into a hail of machine gun fire. Luke Lee, without a thought for his own safety, crawled forward. In spite of a rain of fire all around him, he managed to drag that boy's body back to the American lines. It was then that Luke Lee saw that the boy that he had pulled back was dead. He went through the boy's pockets to find out who he was. And in going through the boy's pockets, he came upon a scrap of paper in which was written a poem that was to become so famous that it was set to music. A poem that goes,
I think that I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree.
For you see that boy that had written that immortal poem, Trees. The boy that Luke Lee had dragged out of no man's land was America's famous poet, Joyce Kilmer. Joyce Kilmer, who wrote those words, poems are written by fools like me.
But only God can make us free.
And that's the story of Luke Lee, a story that began on the football fields of the South and ended on the battlefields of France. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the 3-0 mark for tonight. Tonight, we've been broadcasting from New Orleans, getting ready to broadcast tomorrow's game between Tulane and Mississippi. Next week, we'll be back same time, same stations. Our guest next Friday night will be, as always, a famous star of stage, screen, and radio. See you then. Until then, I'll be seeing you on the screen in the News of the Day newsreel at your favorite Lowe's or Associated Theaters. Until then, this is Bill Stern wishing you all a good night from New Orleans.
Bill Stern, the Colgate Shapery Man, is on his way. Bill Stern, the Colgate Shapery Man, had lots to say. He told you tales of sports heroes, the inside dope he really knows. So listen in next Friday night. Colgate.
Tomorrow night, hear Colgate's Hour of Fun, hilarious Judy Canova, followed by A Day in the Life of Dennis Day. 2 laugh-packed half hours tomorrow night over NBC. Rex Harrison donated his check for tonight's broadcast to the American Red Cross. The Bill Stern Show came to you from New York and New Orleans. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
For our final act, we explore perseverance and pioneering spirit in Behind the Mic. How did a singer, told she could never perform again, find her powerful voice through the airwaves? And then, witness the turbulent journey of an inventor facing fire, ridicule, and even federal charges. Could his controversial device possibly ignite the future of communication?
Radio's own show, Behind the Mic. Radio. With the switch of a dial, radio brings you tragedy, comedy, entertainment, information, education, a whole world at your command. But there are stories behind radio, stories behind your favorite program and favorite personalities and radio people you never hear of. Stories as amusing, dramatic, and as interesting as any make-believe stories you hear on the air. And that's what we give you, the human interest, the glamour, the tragedy, the comedy, and information that are Behind the Mic. And now presenting the man whose name has long been a symbol of the best in broadcasting, Graham McNamee.
Thank you, Gilbert Martin, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the radio audience. This afternoon, Behind the Mic presents an amazing story of the persistence and courage of a radio singer, Karen Kemple. Proof that radio stars and radio audiences have their hearts in the right place, as shown by an incident in which radio MC Walter Compton and movie and stage star Lyle Talbot played the part. And finally, the thrilling story behind the invention of the wireless telephone and the Audion, or radio tube, presented as a tribute to their inventor, Dr. Lee DeForrest, who will speak to you later from Los Angeles. Radio is full of instances of people determined to succeed in spite of handicaps, and that brings us to our first guest, Karen Kemple.
Suppose I tell you first how I conquered my handicap, Graham.
Well, that'll be fine. Go ahead.
Well, I used to be in vaudeville as a dancer, also doing a little professional ice skating. Several years ago, I played in a skating scene in an RKO picture. In between film takes, I used to sit around the rink without adequate wraps. One day, I found myself in the Cedars of Lebanon Hospital with pneumonia, leading to empyema and a collapsed lung. I was in the hospital 7.5 months, Graham. As I was leaving, the doctor said to me,
"Well, Karen, what are you going to do now?"
"I guess I'll be going back to my family in St. Louis."
"I see. I suppose you know, Karen, that you'll never be able to dance or skate or take any violent exercise again?"
"Yes, doctor, I know. But, Graham, I needed the money. So 2 months after getting back to St. Louis, I went to work as a dancer in a supper club."
In spite of the fact that the doctor had told you to take no violent exercise.
"Yes, Graham. I used to put a hot water bottle under my coat on my way to work to ease the pain in my side. It was pretty tough. In the meantime, I started to exercise my lungs. The doctor had given me 2 bottles full of colored fluid connected by tubes. I was supposed to use the tubes to blow the fluid from one bottle to the other as a breathing exercise. The first time, it took me 20 or more breaths to do it. Then a friend of mine, a singing teacher, came to me and said,
"Karen, as long as you're doing these breathing exercises with the bottles, don't you think that singing lessons might help your lungs? It's exercise, too. And besides, you've always had a good voice."
"Well, I'm not making much money now, and maybe if I sing, I could have a better future. All right, when do we start?" At first, I couldn't practice singing more than 3 or 4 minutes at a time. Then I increased my practicing to a half hour or more. Meanwhile, I found that where at the beginning it had taken me about 20 breaths to blow that liquid from one bottle to another, now I could do it in one.
You certainly were improving, Karen.
Yes. And then about a year later, I auditioned for station KMOX in St. Louis and started to broadcast. Then came a few commercials, and later a station in Cincinnati offered me a staff job as well as a number of commercials. 2.5 years later, I received an offer from NBC, and I've been in New York ever since.
And ladies and gentlemen, Miss Campbell makes recordings which are played on 240 stations throughout the country. And this is the girl who had a collapsed lung and was relegated to the status of a semi-invalid. And now Karen Campbell will sing for us Amapola.
Amapola, lindissima amapola, será siempre mi alma tuya sola. Yo te quiero, amada niña mía, igual que ama la flor la luz del día. Amapola, lindissima amapola, non sei tan ingrata, amami, amapola, amapola, ¿cómo puedes tú vivir tan sola? De amor los quiero sei tu rey. Triste queja de amor que sonó en mi corazón, diciéndome así con su dulce canción. Amapola, lindísima amapola, te quiero, amada niña mía. Amapola, lindissima amapola, non sei tan ingrata,
Thank you, Karen Campbell, thank you. There's certainly nothing wrong with your lungs now, and your voice is delightful. Ladies and gentlemen, radio is full of human interest, and both radio people and the folks who listen to radio are a pretty decent sort. You don't have to take my word for it. Just listen to this story, and you will find out for yourselves. This is a little story behind the broadcast of that popular program, Double or Nothing. And here is the program's master of ceremonies, Walter Compton. Hi, Walter. What is this story?
Well, Graham, as in the case with practically all quiz-type programs, Double or Nothing pays for questions submitted by listeners. A few weeks ago, a question was sent to us by Mrs. Mabel Hicken of Duluth, Minnesota, which said,
Dear Double or Nothing, I am sending this question with the hope in my heart that you will use it on your program. The question is, what is the Seeing Eye Institute? I hope you will use it because I have a son who is blind, and the money I might get for this question I will put towards paying for a course of training for my son at the Seeing Eye Institute, where he can learn to make proper use of the Seeing Eye dog.
Graham, one of the guests on our show that night was Lyle Talbot, star of motion pictures and co-starring with Alan Dinehart and Glenda Farrell in the Broadway play Separate Rooms. On that program, the first question I asked was, here is a question sent in by Mabel Hicken of Duluth, and she gets $5 for it. Lyle, what is the Seeing Eye Institute?
It's an institute which trains dogs to be guides for the blind.
Right. And that's worth $5 to you, Lyle Talbot. Now, you go on and talk for a minute, giving me as many facts as you possibly can about the Seeing Eye Institute. I'll tell you how much each fact is worth as you give it.
All right. Well, let me see. The Seeing Eye Institute is in Morristown, New Jersey.
That's worth $2.
I believe it was started in 1928.
Right, 1928. I think that's worth $4 silver.
And the Seeing Eye dogs are, usually German Shepherds, I think, and they...
Say, you've done all right, Lyle Talbot. You have $24 silver to your credit. Now then, double or nothing.
Shoot, Walter.
Who invented the system of reading for the blind?
Well, it's called the Braille system, so I imagine it was invented by a man named, wait a minute, I remember, Louis Braille.
That is correct, sir. $48 silver plus the $5 you've already earned, which makes a total of $53 silver in all. Incidentally, Lyle, the lady who sent in that question will be mighty happy that we used it and that you answered it so well, because, you see, she mentioned in her letter that she has a blind son, and at the $5 she receives for her question, she's going to use to help pay for a course of training at the Seeing Eye Institute for the boy so that he can learn the proper use of a seeing eye dog. You have to be trained for that, you know.
Well, I'll tell you, Walter, if that's the case, I want you to take this $53 now and send it to Mrs. Hicken to put towards paying for that course for her son. I feel she earned it.
Oh, Lyle, that's very generous of you. With the $5 she gets for a question, that'll make $58 altogether.
Is that the end of the story, Walter?
Oh, no, Graham, not by a long shot. Letters poured into the Duluth studio, the city where Mrs. Hicken lived. They came from all over the country as well, and a great deal more than the $150 for Mrs. Hicken's son was collected. The contributors were asked whether they would have any objection if the additional money was forwarded to the Seeing Eye Institute, and not one objected.
Of course not. The radio listener is a pretty good guy at heart, and so is Lyle Talbot. Our thanks to Lyle Talbot and to you, Walter Compton, for a most interesting story. And now to celebrate the 34th anniversary of the invention of the wireless telephone from which radio, such as we know it today, springs, we pay tribute to its inventor, radio's first genius, Dr. Lee DeForrest. There's tremendous drama behind his two greatest discoveries, the Audion, or radio tube, without which radio couldn't function today, and the wireless telephone. This afternoon, we give you some of that magnificent story, the authentic details of which have been supplied to us by Lee DeForrest's chief assistant, Frank E. Butler, who is here in the studio. We take you back to 1907, to an attic in one of New York City's great skyscrapers, the Parker Building, a hall of 13 stories high, where Dr. Lee DeForrest, his brother, Charles DeForrest, Frank Butler, and a couple of other loyal assistants living on their meager savings so that they could experiment with DeForrest, were examining a remarkable device in wireless reception.
Well, there it is, boys. There's the tube.
And it works, Doc.
It certainly does.
And what an improvement over those crystal detectors. No cat's whisker to break off every time there's static.
And you can certainly hear more clearly with it, too.
What are you going to call it, Lee? Well, how about Audion, Charlie? Because it does make ions audible.
That's just the name for it. Lee, what do you intend to do with it?
Well, Frank, after we experiment a little more with it, I'm going to take it down to the Navy Department at Washington, see if I can sell them on the idea of using it on the battleships to receive wireless messages.
Yes, instead of crystal receivers they have now. They certainly ought to buy it.
So not long afterwards, Lee DeForrest took his radio detector, consisting of its newfangled Audion, or radio tube, encased in a mahogany box with a little peep window in it so you could see if the tube was burning, a pair of earphones, and a Weatherby storage battery down to Washington to demonstrate his invention for receiving wireless messages before a board of naval experts. After the demonstration, there was a conference, and then...
Mr. DeForrest, We have decided definitely not to purchase your new wireless receiver. In the first place, the price is prohibitive. You want $30 for this equipment.
Well, that includes the storage battery.
Yes, I know, but it's much too much. Secondly, this new equipment of yours is impractical. Because unlike our present crystal receiver, your equipment requires a storage battery, which will have to be replaced or recharged, perhaps in the very middle of a message. And then we don't like the idea of using a storage battery in wireless equipment. Anyway, the acid from the battery will spill with the motion of the ship and spoil the deck of the wireless room.
Yes, but couldn't the storage battery be slung in a cradle underneath the table so it would sway with the motion of the ship? Then the acid wouldn't spill.
No. And furthermore, the tube is very short-lived, and we don't think it's reliable. And, your invention is new, untried, and it isn't standard equipment. I'm sorry, Mr. DeForrest.
This was a discouraging blow. The radio tube had been invented, but the Navy, which could be DeForrest's only important customer at the time, had turned it down. Upon his return to New York, he broke the news to his group of assistants.
So that's that, boys.
That's terrible news, Doc.
It certainly is.
Well, what are we going to do?
Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'm through with wireless telegraphy. If they won't take my tube, they won't take it. I think we're working on an idea that I've had for some time.
You mean the wireless telephone?
Yes. Sending the human voice instead of just dot and dash code. We're going to work on that. Now, I think the first thing to do...
And they did get to work on it. And then one day in March 1907, 34 years ago this month, in the little attic in the Parker building, an historic event took place. At one end of the room was Lee DeForrest with a rather weird-looking device to which was attached a mouthpiece, which looked like a telephone mouthpiece. As a matter of fact, it was. Instead of a radio tube, which he had not yet discovered could be used for transmission, but only for listening, he used a flaming arc located in the chimney of a lamp which burned denatured alcohol. At the other end of the room sat Frank Butler at one of DeForrest's Orion tube receiving sets with a pair of earphones in front of him.
All right, Frank, I'm going to try it.
Wait a second until I get these earphones on. All right. Go ahead.
Can you hear me, Frank? I'm talking now. Can you hear me? Can you hear me through the earphone?
Yes, Doc, I can.
Can you hear me distinctly?
Very distinctly, Doc. Just as if it was coming through a telephone. Let me speak through it, and you listen. You'll find out for yourself.
All right, Frank. Oh, wait now. All right, go ahead. Talk.
Can you hear me, Doc?
Yes, it works, Frank. It works.
Then DeForrest and his loyal assistants experimented to see if, while using the wireless telephone, a voice could pass through a wall from one room to another. It did. DeForrest grew more daring. One day he made this suggestion.
Say, fellows, let's rig up an antenna on the roof, on that 30-foot flagpole that's up there. Then we can send stuff out over the air and see if it's picked up by somebody.
It's a fine idea, Lee.
Yes, let's do it.
I wonder if anybody will pick it up.
No sooner said than done. Instead of the voice, however, they sent music from 2 phonograph records. One record was the William Tell Overture. About 4 miles distant, in the one-room shack of the wireless telegraph station of the Brooklyn Navy Yard, 3 Navy wireless operators were on duty. Their names were Davis, Wallace, and Smith. Davis, with headphones over his ears, was vainly trying to intercept a wireless telegraph message from a ship at sea, when suddenly the whispering, spasmodic dots and dashes as they fluttered over the air were unceremoniously interrupted.
Hey, fellas.
What is it? What's the matter?
What is it? Hey, listen to this. There's music. Yeah, music. Hey, it must be angels. Angels, I guess. Hey, come over here quick and listen.
Hey, give me those headphones. Why, yeah. Yeah, it's music. But it can't be angels. They wouldn't be playing the William Tell Overture.
The experiments continued, and at last, having made complete wireless telephone sets for transmission and reception, they took these sets to Put In Bay, near Sandusky, Ohio, where there were some yacht races being held. DeForrest went out on the lake on the yacht Thelma, belonging to his friend, Commodore W.H. Huntington. He had the transmission set, and on the dock, 14 miles away, was Frank Butler with the receiving set. DeForrest, following the course of the race, reported to Butler. Some of what Butler heard was...
I'll tell you when the first boat crosses the line. The first boat, the Spray, crossed the line at 9:59. No, So it's about 25 seconds after 9:59. The second boat crosses at 10.
And so on July 18th, 1907, was the first radio sports broadcast. 1907. Wow. DeForrest and his assistants continued experimenting, working to improve the wireless telephone. And then, on January 10th, 1908, while DeForrest was in Chicago, disaster struck.
Extra, Parker building burns. Extra. Get your special extra Parker building burns. Paper, mister.
Paper boy. Here.
Thanks, mister.
$6 million conflagration strips fireproof skyscraper to skeleton. 3 killed. 13-story Parker building on 4th Avenue, eaten to its steel frame by flames. Collier's, Judge, and great rug firm burned out. Millions worth of rugs destroyed.
Those were the exact headlines which appeared in the old New York World. The Parker building, which contained their laboratories, had been consumed, and all their precious notes, the historical data relating to the wireless telephone and the tube, and the original tubes themselves were destroyed. But in that article, not one word was mentioned of DeForrest or the priceless, irreplaceable material which had been lost. From his patents, from his memory, and from the material that had not been in the building, DeForrest reconstructed his equipment as best he could and went on, trying to interest the public in his invention, sometimes almost starving. For instance, one day Butler entered the laboratory, unseen by DeForrest, who was leaving by another door. He saw DeForrest stop in the hallway, take a nickel from his pocket, look at it longingly, and say aloud,
I don't know whether to buy a sandwich or a pad of notepaper.
Work. And then the discovery one day out in Palo Alto, California, that the Audion tube, which he thought could only be used for listening, would oscillate and could be used for sending as well. A company was formed to sell stock in his wireless telephone inventions. And then disaster struck again. Lee DeForrest and the officers of his company were indicted by the United States government in March 1912. How strange that indictment reads today.
We shall prove that these defendants schemed to defraud divers persons of their money and property by false and fraudulent representations which the defendant did not believe to be the truth, but by which they intended to deceive and mislead said persons. They stated that their company would earn and pay large dividends, chiefly through a device like an incandescent lamp, which the defendant calls an Audion, and which device we shall prove worthless.
The Audion or radio tube, the very heart of radio sending and receiving equipment, worthless. DeForrest accused and pilloried. During the trial, the prosecuting attorney, picking up from a table a tube and holding it in full view of the jury, said,
Now, gentlemen of the jury, I want you to consider this here as an electric light bulb similar to the one invented by Mr. Edison. It has a filament and is lighted by electricity. Why did this genius Edison labor all these years, sacrificing his knowledge and powers? Why? To make a better light, of course. They have taken this glass bulb and have used it not for what it was intended. But for what? I'll tell you. They have said, and we have proven by the evidence here, that this bulb will talk. Not only talk, mind you, but that it also has the power to hear as well. To talk and to hear on the same device. Why, even man can't talk and hear with the same organ. They not only belittle the work of Edison, but they place in ridicule the very acts of the Creator himself. But they have presented this device to an unsuspecting public and have asked them to invest their money in such an unheard-of enterprise, promising them returns for their investments. When you know and I know, and yes, they know, that this is impossible. And now they would insult your intelligence by asking you to believe them. I know you will find these men guilty and send them to the federal penitentiary where they belong.
But chiefly upon the testimony of Frank Butler, who proved that on July 18th, 1907, DeForrest had actually transmitted the human voice for 14 miles during the broadcast of the yacht races, DeForrest was acquitted. In freeing him, the judge admonished DeForrest this way.
Young man, give up all pretense of being an inventor. Go out and get a garden variety of job and stick to it.
And that was the advice given to the inventor of the wireless telephone. But DeForrest, with his great vision and his magnificent courage and his inventive genius, stuck to it. And to him and to the other pioneers is due radio, such as we know it today. And now here in the studio is a man who for many years was Lee DeForrest's chief assistant, Frank Butler, a great engineer and a great guy as well. Frank, I'm mighty glad to see you here today.
Well, thank you, Graham. And I'm mighty glad to see you again also. But say, do you know, I passed up a lovely double birthday party of my daughter Jane and sister-in-law in Toledo, so that I might be here today.
Well, Frank, that's not the first sacrifice that's been given to the cause of radio. Frank, after all these years, what do you think of the opportunity you had to have assisted Lee DeForrest?
Well, Graham, as I noticed the grandeur and the magnitude of Radio City, for instance, and think of what radio, sound pictures, television, and the other electronic marvels today mean to mankind, why, I'm stunned. I can't realize the transition. I find myself wondering, why was I, of all humanity, chosen to have been one of those that stood at the cradle of this baby, nursed it, and now have lived to see the dreams and the prophecies of this great genius come true.
It must have been a great experience, Frank.
It certainly was, Graham. And now here's a treat. After a few seconds pause in which to make the switch, you will hear the voice of Dr. Lee DeForrest from Los Angeles.
One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hello, Frank. Hello. If you hear me, wave a towel out of the window there. Do you remember those first radiophone tests, Frank? Then it must be evident that I am not speaking into that old microphone which we used in the Parker building away back in 1907. Radio voices sounded rather muffled and indistinct then compared to those from the high-fidelity mics we are using today. Yes, 34 years have seen tremendous developments in every branch of communications. And you and I, with Jack Hogan, almost the sole living survivors of the old guard who were present at the very birth of broadcasting, are indeed fortunate to be alive, to compare the radio triumphs of today with those primitive but hopeful beginnings. In 1907, no one could possibly have foreseen what is occurring right now between Los Angeles and New York, because then the amplifier, which has since made possible the transcontinental telephone, was only a crude little glass baby lying in swaddling cotton in that little old shoebox in our laboratory. How well I remember those first Audient tubes. And you do, too. How difficult they were to construct. How great our chagrin when one of them burned out. And what headaches we suffered to keep those first radio telephone transmitters on the air. Bittersweet are those old memories. May good luck and long life attend you, Frank. And don't forget, I am eagerly awaiting to read your book of reminiscences. I know you share my oft-expressed wish that we might live until the 21st century just to observe the state of radio and television then. Startling changes are in store, but I have a hunch that the little grid will always be found in our radio and amplifier tubes even then.
And now we return you to New York.
Thank you, Dr. Lee DeForrest, and thank you, Frank Butler. I feel deeply honored to have been a part of this broadcast. And, Frank, I might say that I await with great interest your book, I Grew with an Era, which tells so graphically your story as assistant to Dr. Lee DeForrest and the part he played in the development of radio. Behind the Mic was written by Mort Lewis. Original music composed and conducted by Ernie Watson. Before saying good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, when we announced last week that beginning 3 a.m. on March 29th, all stations above 72 on the dial would move to another number, we received so many requests from listeners asking at what number they could find this and that and other programs after that day that we are going to give you a chance to find out. Your local station will now announce the exact spot on the dial where you will find it.
From thrilling chases and comedic encounters to inspiring true accounts of human spirit and invention, this episode of Classic Radio Drama Theater has offered a rich tapestry of vintage radio experiences. We hope these 4 performances transported you. Which story resonated most powerfully with you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you're always tuned in for our next episode. Until then, remember, the greatest stories echo long after the broadcast ends.